Our Chief Justice, Chair of NCIC, distinguished diplomats, ladies and gentlemen, mine is very humble. I'm happy to be here this afternoon. I work for Kenya Red Cross, and I've worked for the Red Cross both as a volunteer and as a paid staff for about 42 years. And in these 42 years, I've had the honor of working in different parts of this world, where I have witnessed some of the serious conflicts that were man-made outside this country, but more importantly in our country over the last 10, 15, or even 20 years. What I want to share with you is my personal life into this and my personal action on this. First and foremost, I would say that I'm very fortunate, like Nados just said, that I was also, at a tender age of 5 years, I lost both my parents. My father was lost due to the conflict in Kenya in the early 60s in northeastern Kenya of the shifter struggle. He was a herdsman, and the little that I've been told, that he lost his life because of the insurgency that was there and because of the Kenya Defense Forces that were then working in those areas. My mother passed away on natural illnesses. I was fortunate enough to be adopted as a child at a very tender age in Mombasa, in Kenya, with my adopted parents that came from a totally different clan or different background or ethnicity, if one may call it that, or tribe in this country. But nevertheless, I am very grateful to Lord Almighty for what He has given me in my life. And I grew in Mombasa, which is my hometown, and sometimes some people feel that I'm a bit lost from my own ancestry background. But with the Red Cross, I found a home where I could grow and be what I wanted to be. And I was fortunate to start as a volunteer in a local branch in Mombasa way back in 1973, because I was doing something called the President's Award Scheme then, or in UK it's called the Duke of Edinburgh Award. So to do your basic bronze medal, you had to learn first aid. And in first aid, I went to the there was St. John's Ambulance and Red Cross, the two organizations you could go to. So I went to the Red Cross in 73 while in high school. And that is my association between me and Red Cross since then. 11 years as a volunteer in Mombasa in a local branch, but the last 32 years or 30 plus years as a paid staff, both locally here and internationally. And I've been fortunate to work in every corner of this world except in North America. So what has been my role and what has been my contribution in relation to peace, and particularly in Kenya? I worked for Kenya Red Cross from 1985 to 1990 as a paid staff, and during this period, as a small young national youth officer and working as in other various roles. And one of the things that I saw very quickly was the hope that Red Cross could bring to people who are hopeless for one reason or another, whether man-made or natural. I remember way back in 78 in Mombasa as a volunteer, when we had refugees coming all the way from Vietnam, who then were called the boat people, who were coming as far as this part of the world to look for sanctuary. And where the Red Cross went to assist them before they were relocated to some in France, some in Canada, as asylum seekers, and they were taken to those countries. But coming closer here in Kenya, over the last 10 years, we've seen in this country, and I would actually say over the last 20 years, from way back 1992, where there has been conflict on political grounds, on ethnic grounds, on resource, whether it's land or water, in many parts of this country. And for me as a Kenyan, I was very shocked to see what people can do to one another for simple things that in other person's mind could be sorted out very easily. We see cattle rustling. This has been a traditional thing in some communities over the years. It was a macho thing to go and steal from a neighbor when you have initiation periods or you have some festivals. And the next time they come and steal from you, there'll be agreement between them, and things were finished that way. But we've seen over the last many years is there has been actually a more organized cattle rustling for those who are involved in this business, and where we have seen more arms being used and more violence being used and more people being displaced, and women and children who were previously not to be touched are today part and largely the victims. And in those situations, you found out that it is either economic, it is political, it could be for resources. So my personal view has been to work on these issues and work on these issues very seriously, to say that as even for my organization, we've had to firefight to respond to this crisis, but we've said no as an organization. Our personal, individual, and collective responsibility would be to address the root causes of some of these challenges. So over the last few years, we've been working a lot, even including NCIC and other government agencies, to even get into a situation where people have been fighting. And I can use many examples. In Tana River, every 5 years there's a conflict before elections. In Samburu, there would be these challenges between Samburu and Turkana, but also in Isiolo between the Merus, Samburus, Turkanas, Somalis, in Marsabit between the various communities. But I think the big example for me I wanted to use is the post-election violence. I'm very happy, as sad as it may sound, that the first pictures that Kenyans and the world saw in their living rooms were pictures that I took with my colleagues, because we had the intelligence and the information at what was happening on the ground from 27th, 28th, 29th of December and 30th of 2007 after the election. Since then, we have stayed on the forefront, and I can use many examples of my personal intervention. And I can use more recently in Kapedo, Baragoi, and even Tana River again with the conflict about 3 years ago, to really say that in my own capacity as the head of the organization, we've made it our business to bring peace and dialogue among these communities when they are forced into conflict through politics or through other means. And I think in this case, I'm very happy that we've passed the stage of firefighting, but to go into the root causes of these challenges. And this is what I would urge my compatriots and residents of this country, that actually it is possible to bring dialogue among communities. I think the chair of NCIC is here. We've done that in Marsabit and Moyale after almost, for 3-4 years of fighting. Thank God up to now, at least the peace is holding there. But we've seen new situations in Isiolo, Meru now. We've seen this in Samburu. We've seen this between Turkanas and Pokots, whether it was Kapedo or Nandome and many others. So I just want to say that really, individually and collectively, we can promote and add value to peace in this country. Because of time, I just want to thank you very much.